Welcome back to another episode of Way Too Wifey. I am your host, respectfully Gabby, and in this podcast we talk all about dating and relationships in this modern day. You guys, I wanted to make this video because Mercury, the planet, is Gatorating again, which means Mercury is in retrograde, and a lot of things are going to be coming to the surface. A lot of people are going to be breaking up, whether it's permanent or not. There's going to be a lot of friend breakups, a lot of situations happening. So I feel like this is the best time to record this type of episode. But if you don't believe in astrology, just look at the people around you. I'm sure someone is going through a breakup right now. Patterns. Okay, it's all about patterns. If you're here and you don't believe in astrology, I just want to say that it is the study of patterns throughout thousands of years, and you can compare it to like finances, right? Like we can predict when the economy is likely going to go into a depression. The same way we can predict based on the stars in planetary alignment that something big is going to happen. And if you think that on a macro level that these planets, these things are not affecting us, you're fucking wrong. And I'm sorry, but if you can't get that deep about life, you shouldn't even be on this podcast. But aside from that, I'm sorry, I just went on a ramble, but back to the topic of breakups. I really had to put myself into the perspective of being broken up with. I honestly forgot how bad it fucking hurts. Like, it literally feels like someone took your soul, ripped it up, and just threw it in the trash. It feels like someone has literally died. It is the worst feeling that you can probably experience in your entire lifetime. And if you've been through a serious breakup before, you understand and you know it is literally equivalent-ish to someone actually dying, because that person is choosing to no longer be in your life. And you kind of have to think of that as someone is dead to you. I mean, not like literally, but they're no longer in your life. You have to accept that they are no longer choosing you, or you're no longer choosing them, and then having to move on past that. It's very difficult. And just know that if you're in the midst of it and you're experiencing a breakup right now, it does get better. I promise you, the choices and decisions in the healing process will get better over time. I know this is the worst piece of advice that you want to hear right now, but I promise you, it does fucking get better. I honestly think back to what if we never broke up? My life would be in a completely different place. I am absolutely obsessed with the way that my life is panning out right now. And I just think that maybe if you heard that you would have a little bit of like hope for the future. The very first thing that I would recommend doing is to feel all of your feelings. Like, this is where a lot of people go wrong. And by a lot of people, I feel like a lot of men go wrong, is to not feel their feelings. And that's why it appears that they move on so quickly. And they're good and they're living their best lives after a breakup, but actually they're not feeling their feelings. Whereas women, we heal quicker because immediately we feel everything. We cry it out. We do the things. And you should feel all your feelings. Like, let it all out. Don't be afraid to fucking cry. Don't be afraid to express how you're feeling towards to your friends. And really just surround yourself by people who actually love you and care about you, and vent as much as you possibly can until they are sick and tired of hearing it. Whenever they're tired of hearing you talk about it, that's when it's probably time to go within and reflect within and really process your emotions, process the way that you feel. This is where a lot of people go wrong, is that they don't feel their feelings. They move on very quickly into other relationships so they don't have to feel the pain that they're feeling. And what that does is gets you stuck. Those feelings then get repressed deep within you and you haven't released them. So there's a lot of things that can happen when you haven't released the feelings that you're feeling. A lot of us are holding on to a lot of baggage from the past that we have not let go of. this is the very first thing you need to do in order to heal from a breakup. I remember going through breakups and thinking like, oh my God, I cannot bear to see this person with another girl. I cannot bear to have thoughts of them like sleeping with anyone else or dating anyone else or moving on past me, or, you know, why are they moving on so quickly when I'm going through it right now? But when I'm telling you, everyone has their own healing process, and jumping into the next thing is definitely not going to heal you. Whenever you feel awful and you miss them, that does not mean that you've made the wrong decision. Because I often question myself like, oh my God, I miss them so much. I miss having them in my life. Did I make the wrong decision to leave? I want them back so bad, but it's the comfort and just being comfortable with that person. It's the routine. It's something that you're used to. That does not mean that they were beneficial in my life. Just because I was comfortable with them and it was something that I knew and was okay with. Do not let anyone shame you for your healing process. There's some things that are so hard to do, like for instance, cleaning up your social media, deleting those pictures. If you're not ready to do it, don't fucking do it. But if you really want to move on and heal and allow yourself the space, cleaning up your social media, deleting the pictures from them. I always archive in case we got back together, but archiving pictures, deleting them off of social media, and if you really think that you're going to go back to their page and look at what they're posting, what they're doing, what they're up to, block them. It is not immature to block someone if they are consuming your energy and you no longer want them to. It is completely okay to block someone on social media. I always thought that it was super immature. Like, why would you just block me? But whenever I started blocking people, I felt a sense of peace. Like, they're no longer in my life. I don't have to think about them. I don't have to see them. I have zero temptation to go to their page, but I know how hard it can be. And with an ex that you've spent this much time with, that's the last thing within the first couple of weeks to months. That's the last thing that's on your mind, is wanting to block this person. But I promise you, it does help a lot during the healing process. And sometimes it is better to just rip the Band-Aid off than to have to endure that pain of seeing what they're doing. Every time I would check my ex's page, I would go to their following. What new girls are they following? What are they up to? What are they doing? I would go on a fake account and look at their stories and what they're up to. This only made me miss them 10 times more. When I stopped checking their pages, I moved on so much quicker than when I dragged myself back into their energy and allowed them to have that piece of me. And the next part is, I know this is going to feel super shitty, but trust me when I say zero contact. Do not contact them for absolutely anything. If they've broken up with you, they've made that decision that they no longer want you in your life. And I want you to sit with that and really just feel the feels, because fuck them. They should no longer have any access to you, period. If they no longer want you in your life, listen to them the first time. Do not beg for them, for their attention. Don't beg for them back. I used to do that shit. And now I look back, I'm like, why would I ever beg them to be in my life when they just didn't treat me the best? Why would I beg to have someone back when they don't want me in their life? I would say another thing that really helped me in the healing process was writing down everything that I didn't like about them, everything that they did to me that was unacceptable, everything that just like really rubbed me the wrong way. And then every time I would think about the good times, the good memories, oh my God, I miss them, I want them back, I would pull this list up on my phone and read it to myself. I'm like, and then I would ask myself, is this someone that you really want back? Or is this someone that does not deserve you? And although that there was definitely times I would keep running back, it helped in the sense that like, okay, maybe I'm making the right choice. Like constantly reminding myself that they are no longer for me. And then I would write a list also on everything that I did right, everything that I love about myself, And I would remind myself that, okay, I don't need this. I could deal without them. And also, I'm a bad bitch and I don't fucking need you. So write the list of all the things you hated about them, the list of everything you love about yourself and all of the things that you do and how good of a person you are, and then release it and read it as a constant reminder. I think it's just reading it back to yourself as a constant reminder that I don't need you. I look at all the things where I compare as to what you've done to me, and call it a fucking day. I honestly think that the best revenge is like that breakup body. And you all fucking know, I have this theory that whoever had a glow up after the relationship was over was the person that was not in the wrong. Because you have to think about it. That person had the capability to have that glow up, to, focus on themselves and have this type of either looks wise doing much better or success wise doing much better. If you become a better person after the breakup, that's how you know that person was not for you, because you had that potential in you and they were sucking the energy out of you. And that should just be your sign to fucking, like, who are they to hold me back from my best self? My very first relationship, I would say the best thing that I did for myself was going to the gym. I would go to the gym twice a day because how sad I was, and it was the only thing to take my mind off of that. And whenever I did think about that, I'd be like, oh my god, look at how hot I'm gonna get. He cannot fucking get anyone that's gonna be as hot as I'm gonna be. And it was just like a confidence booster, but not that was necessarily true, but I felt good about myself of look at me bettering myself after this. That's another thing, is like the eating. So I know, for me anyway, and I know that a lot of people are like this, but eating after a breakup is so hard because you're so at a low in your life, like depressed, anxious, whatever, and you just feel awful. The last thing you think about that you want to do is to eat. And I completely get that, but eat enough to survive. And the last thing that you should be doing is drinking while you're going through the breakup, because I can promise you, what's worse, the pain or the hangover? The hangover is much worse. And the regret of the things that you do while you're drunk, and it comes with a lot of shame. I remember I went out with one of my girlfriends and just made some really reckless decisions while I was out. I'm like, okay, I really need to not drink. That's like, I'm going through it right now, and the last thing that I should be doing is numbing my pain and experiencing these little things that make me feel shameful about myself. It makes you feel a lot worse. Would highly recommend not drinking after a breakup. And honestly, the last thing that I would say is reestablishing yourself. Reestablish your calendar, because I know that you're probably spending a majority of your time with this person. Your schedules was full of, what you were doing with this person, and sleeping at their place. If you shared a place, and that's an entire house full of both of your shit. So decluttering your space and completely removing everything that was theirs, removing everything that reminds you of them, removing anything that makes you feel sad, get it out of your way, and then reestablish what you like to do. So there's some things that you probably compromised while in the relationship. Get back to doing those things, the hobbies that you like to do. So for me, whenever I was in my last relationship, one of the things that I did beforehand, I was super into self-development and reading and just learning more and expanding my mind. And whenever I was in the relationship, I never felt the need or want to do that. It was the last thing on my mind. I was just kind of floating through life with him. The second that I got out of that relationship and really started to heal on myself, I am constantly learning, growing, and becoming the best version of myself. It just made me realize that maybe he really was taking a lot more than I thought that he was. and because I've reestablished myself, my routine, what I like to do, more about me. The thing is, I feel like a lot of people get rid of their friends whenever they hop into relationships. And my first breakup, I did that. When I got out of that relationship, it was 10 times more painful because I had absolutely no one to talk to as far as friends. I had no one to go to. I had to completely start fresh, start making new friends. It was really tough going through that alone. Whereas my second relationship, I probably grew a little bit out of relationships, but I definitely had friendships. And there was this one girl that came into my life, and she was like heaven sent because she came at such a perfect time in my life to help me get through this. Like, she was there for me 100%. I like cannot thank her enough. I literally feel like I owe her my life at this point. We began to hang out a lot more after that breakup. I got a lot more friends from that, and I just reestablished like, what do I like to do? What am I into? Who am I as Gabby? And reestablishing myself and what I like to do really helped me get out of, because you are completely learning a whole nother life. Like, that is the end of a chapter, and then you have to move on to something completely different. You have no idea where to start, but start one step at a time. Get back to things that you like to do beforehand, maybe make some new friends, get yourself out there, and then maybe pick up some new hobbies, or get out there. You just fill your schedule, fill your time with things to do that maybe you didn't like to do before, and like you want to try something new out. Now is your time to do it. Completely invest in yourself. And lastly, I would say this was the best decision that I could have ever made for myself while going through a breakup, because everything in that town reminded me of my ex, was to leave. If you've ever had a thought about moving, if you've ever had a thought about relocating or changing your environment, now is the best time to do it, because you no longer are with that person. So you have absolutely nothing holding you back. And if it's a job or whatever, you can find another job. You can do other things. Now is the best time to get out of there, because I was stuck in Orlando for 6 years. And I wanted to leave Orlando after I got out of college. And I found myself in another relationship immediately after. So I ended up staying for a couple more years than I wanted to. But when I got out of that, I knew immediately that I wanted to move. And honestly, it was the best thing that I could have done for myself. Completely hit the refresh button, clean slate. I didn't have to run into people that I knew. I didn't have to run in or go to the same places that we used to go to. I didn't have to worry about running into him. It was a completely fresh and new start. I didn't have to worry about like running into his friends on the apps or anything like that. It was so fresh. It's something that I actually think I needed. So if you've ever had a thought about relocating, now is the best time. So I hope this episode helped. And if you are experiencing a breakup, I know how hard it can be. It is the worst, probably the worst pain. Top like 3 worst pains that you could probably feel in your life. And I'm feeling for you, because it's tough, but you will get through it. I promise you, there is so much better on the other side. I have made it through. I do no longer think about past shit. I really am thriving. I'm single and thriving. And my best piece of advice is that if you are holding on to something that is wrong for you, you are not welcoming the space for something that is right for you. You're never going to attract the right Mr. Right or Mrs. Right if you are with Mr. or Mrs. Wrong. That is something that took me forever to learn. And now that I get it, it is like mind-blowing. But that is it for this week's episode. If you guys could, please hit the like, comment, subscribe. And I will see you guys next Tuesday. I have some crazy updates that are coming next month, so be prepared. I am really excited to share with you guys.